How to protect your child's inheritance in case he or she ever gets divorced. Hi, I'm attorney Paul Bernstein of the Bernstein Law Group, and I'd like to illustrate how to protect the inheritance for your child if they ever get divorced through an example. We'll talk about two families. We have the Knight family and the Day family. The Knight family went to see an attorney and they said, we want to leave everything to our daughter, Susan. So the attorney drafted a simple estate plan with a will, and what it said was once both of them pass away, everything goes outright to the daughter, Susan. Simple. Both Knight, Mr. and Mrs. Knight pass away. Susan inherits everything, and Susan, who's married, her and her husband decide to use the inheritance to buy a house. So they buy a house together, and some years later the marriage falls apart and they get a divorce. And Susan's husband gets half the house, half the inheritance. So that's an unfortunate situation. Now let's talk about the Day family, what they did. They saw a different attorney, and that attorney recommended that they leave the inheritance to their daughter Mary, but not outright, in a trust that Mary can be in control of. And they liked the idea of that. So when Mr. and Mrs. Day died and everything goes to Mary, it didn't go outright to her, it went into a trust. Now Mary was also married, just like Susan was, but in this case, when her and her husband decided to use that inheritance to buy a house, they did it differently. What happened was Mary said to her husband, let's buy the house, and what I'm going to do is I have to borrow the money to buy the house from the trust. And the trust is going to be like the bank would be. But we're not going to get a mortgage through a bank. We have enough money in the inheritance, but the trust will be the bank. So they saw an attorney who drafted a mortgage, put the mortgage on the property, and made very favorable mortgage payments back to the trust. So years went by, they were making payments to the trust, the value of the home increased, and the size of the mortgage decreased because they were making payments to the trust, and then their marriage fell apart as well, and they ended up being divorced. But instead of her husband getting half the house, he got half the equity. But the vast majority of the house was protected because that mortgage was in place on that property. But had the trust bought the house, which it could have, her husband never would have felt like he was an owner at all. By using this mortgage strategy, the husband always felt like he was a co-owner of the house, but we protected the inheritance. I hope this makes some sense to you. It's a very valuable way of leaving an inheritance and one tool to benefit a child who's married, to make sure that her or he and their spouse can own a house but protect the inheritance component. Be more like the Day family, not the Knight family. I hope you found this information helpful. If you have any questions or just not sure what to do, feel free to reach out. Thank you.